myself and reminding myself of what I need. And I'll go back in and pick up my books randomly and just read a section or just to check in with myself.
Like,
so,
hey, how about that?
Yeah, hey, how you doing? But we always have to check in.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, when I talk about these things, I don't claim to be separated from any of it because we're all here, we're all experiencing, we all have to make the efforts.
But that's what I get from your books, is that's what you're saying. If we check in every day, and not just every day as a perfunctory meditation or every Sunday at church, which are things to do. I know I talk about that on the Examiner when I write and on the show and everything like that, but in a fluid way. In a way that says that I am great, I am worthy, I am a humble servant to this great thing, life, that is a gift to me, and check in with that, you know, in those moments when you just don't know. But instead of checking in with them in a state of fear, what I get from your writings, Ricky, is that you just check in with them because that is where you are, and that is where the direction comes from to make the most ordinary next move in your life.
And that's important you point that out, especially because we touched base on addictions. Whether someone who sees this is dealing with that struggle or what, is by checking in with where you are, no matter where you're at. You know, what choices you have made that could have been good or bad or whatever it is, we always have to be kind to ourselves. We always have to love ourselves and love where we are, no matter how bad we think it is where we are, and no matter how much we may have played a part and bring us to that place. The judgment needs to be gone. You know, we oftentimes, the judgment of ourselves and thinking that we should be so much better or be in a different place or I should be here at this age or whatever it is going to be a part of what keeps us back. You know, so
say that again. Say that one more time.
I don't know what I just said.
He said I should be at this place at this certain age.
Yeah, whatever it is, you know, and that judgment.
Like Ricky.
But just to love where we are, you know, however we are, and that's where the growth happens. You know, that checking in with yourself and not being judgmental of where you are, because that's all that stuff's out here. You know, all this pressure, and you know, we're all on our own journey and coming in our own time, and none of us are perfect. You know, and that's oftentimes we'll see that the things that are holding us down and keeping us down are not really the judgment of ourselves, but the judgment of other people that have been programmed in us, you know, to make us feel less than what we really are and worthy. So, you know, I just brought that up because I feel like whether it's addiction or anything, we're always dealing with something. So just to love where we are, love us where we are.
That's right. You know? Whether it's the addiction for the drink before you go out to speak in front of people, which is not what Ricky does when he comes to speak. Okay, no. But this is in a former life. That's what I did. You know, and not every single time, but when I felt like, oh, this crowd is really going to have somebody in there that's really going to be, you know, more skilled than I am. And I need to be, you know, that ego, you know, coming out like that. But the judgment does have to go because New Thought, through the teachings of Christ, again through parable, talk about the grace and mercy and love that is there for us, and to release the old teaching of condemnation. I mean, it's necessary to be able to establish boundaries and understanding of what's right and what's wrong. But once you have that, I mean, it's imperative that you grow, because what you were talking about before in terms of being able to look at a situation and see how you can become better, even though it may not be what you wanted. It's easier to do that in some circumstances than others, and we're all different. For me, like you were talking about the death of your sister, I don't know if that's true for you in all cases, but for me, in all cases, that's pretty easy. You know, I know, like with the recent death of Michael Jackson on Facebook, you know, I was just out there just talking and you know, going back and forth messaging. I did a podcast within 24 hours. You know, that's easy because, I don't know, it's just within me. I know that the physical release of the body is just all that is. I have no problems with that. But other things that may be a little bit more difficult for me, because I acknowledge that is a way that I'm accepting something that I can say, well, if there's something else in my life that's not as easy to accept, like the releasing of the ego so that I can release my addictions, which is what I've done, that hasn't been an easy process for me. I can say, well, I can release that too, because I don't need to be judging myself.
Yeah.
I don't need to be judging anyone else in comparison to me. You know, it makes it easier. So if you start wherever you are with what you can accept in the now, you know, being present and checking in with that, it becomes easier to accept other things. And so it's not a fearful prospect to check in with the gift.
Yeah. And when you talk about easy, earlier you're asking, why do we do these things, or why don't we, how do we lose the gift or whatever it is? Because it's not always easy to face ourselves. You know, it's not easy to face
not with the judgment.
Things. No, you know, and that's where I think the answer lies, is to allow it to be easy, you know, to see who you are. And that's where the judgment comes in play, is let it go.
Right.
You know, and really a lot of my efforts in my writing is to be a part of just closing down, or bringing down those boundaries that we've created, you know, bringing down those boundaries between each other, and the walls that we've established with different groups or whatever it is, because the more that we're able to do that, you know, the more that we're able to bring the walls we've created within ourselves up too. You know, let those fall down. Because really we just, and it all comes down to judgment, you know. And when we talk about seeking outside ourselves and finding things to pass by, we're always looking for the answer outside. You know, it's in church, like you said, on Sunday. We fill our space with all this different stuff to distract us from who we really are. By giving, you know, giving is receiving, you know, always, always. And my life is enriched because I'm able to share. And it's not so much of the act of sharing as it is impacting someone's life and letting them see the beauty that they are, the love that we all are. You know, so I'm thankful.
What a gift.
Yeah.
What a gift.
Yeah.
Visit RickyRoberts3rd.com. It's spelled R-I-C-K-Y, Roberts, I-I-I.com for more information and to order your book. You definitely want to read Where Did the Gift Go? By Ricky Roberts III. And if you are around the St. Petersburg area this Sunday, the 12th, he will be speaking at the Unity Temple of Truth on Prescott. So for more information, again, visit RickyRoberts3rd, III.com, and be blessed.
Be blessed. What we do in so many times in our life is we want to feel better, so we pacify these things that we deal with in our life, and we pacify them with many different things, you know, whatever addictions it could be, or whatever ways that we want to consume our time. We pacify these so-called struggles that we face in our life, instead of seeing them as opportunities to grow and become more aware of who we are, because it's a part of who we will become through these experiences.